Welcome to Startup Health TV. I'm your host, Logan Plaster. Today on the show, Bob Wise, CEO of SOLIUS, a startup out of Seattle, Washington that's been with Startup Health since 2017. SOLIUS is the startup behind a clever device that delivers the vitamin D benefits of the sun without any of the harmful radiation. First, they built a walk-in booth to deliver these rays, and now they're developing an at-home, more COVID-friendly, portable version that's really the first of its kind. Bob and I talk about why so many people are vitamin D deficient in our culture, what it means for their health, and how their new tech could really help someone with seasonal affective disorder, among other challenges. Hope you enjoyed the interview. All right, Bob Wise, CEO of SOLIUS, thank you so much for taking the time for this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Logan. I appreciate it.
You know, a lot's changed since our last conversation in the spring. We were right in the middle of the COVID lockdown, talking about your product, how it was sort of impacted by COVID. I'm excited to get an update on that and also much more future-looking what's next. So why don't you start by just giving me a flyover reminder to our viewers of what SOLIUS is, what you've built, and we can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, well, SOLIUS is a phototherapy device which is intended to raise the level of vitamin D in the human body, which research has shown is linked to a variety of medical conditions, including respiratory infections, autoimmune diseases, and numerous cancers.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have a global vitamin D epidemic going on. Roughly 70 to 80% of all people in the world are insufficient in vitamin D, and unfortunately, supplements aren't helping. So.
Okay.
We're basically replicating sunlight by filtering out the harmful ultraviolet A rays and allowing people to get very small doses of light, which generates vitamin D in the human body.
Help me understand the problem. You said 70 to 80% of people are vitamin D deficient. A viewer might hear that and say, okay, well, if we all have it, then none of us have it. Then none of us are having serious problems from it. So help me understand kind of the severity of it if we've all got it.
Well, I think the severity is clear in the diseases that we see in our country and throughout the world these days. The rise of autoimmune diseases, which is epidemic, the rising levels of cancers that we see, and then particularly with respiratory infections and COVID-19. Recent study just came out from Boston University, Dr. Michael Hollick, indicating that if your vitamin D level is optimized at the appropriate level, you have a 54% less chance of dying than if your vitamin D level is insufficient. So we actually believe that we are seeing the impacts of low vitamin D right now.
Yeah. So in other words, it's way more severe than people think. They think, oh, I'm vitamin D deficient, no big deal. And it's way bigger than they realize.
Yeah, I think that's actually right. And one of the reasons why is vitamin D sounds so innocuous. When it was discovered, it was actually misnamed. It's not a vitamin. It's a hormone. Turns out it's one of the master hormones in the human body, and there are vitamin D receptors in almost every cell in your body.
You think if we called it something different, we might take it more seriously somehow?
Well, I think it doesn't help it to be labeled like vitamin C, which you can only get through vitamins. Typically you only receive them through a nutritional type of method, and that's not the case with vitamin D. Your body can actually produce it on its own.
Well, I think also just culturally, we have taken on this idea that vitamin D means I need to go for a walk in the sun. There's something sort of simplistic about it. Like I just need to go to the beach, versus really thinking about my health, thinking about long-term impacts. It's not just a walk in the park. There's more to it, right?
There is a little bit more to it, but I would certainly encourage people to get outside and
that's
get
a start.
Sunshine, right?
That's
exactly.
A start.
We tell people at the right time of the year in climates like where I live, which is in Seattle, it's impossible to get any vitamin D for the majority of the year, even if you are outside.
Okay.
But we've become an indoor society. We work typically during the day when you can produce vitamin D. When we do go outside, we tend to cover up and use lots of suntan lotion because we fear skin cancer and aging effects that can be caused by the sun. Remarkably, the vitamin D insufficiency levels between a place like Seattle and Los Angeles are almost identical.
Oh, because of our office culture and our clothing and our sunscreen.
You got it.
Got
So
it.
definitely go outside, go to the beach.
Okay.
And
All right.
get a small amount. Now, don't believe me. It's all about moderation too, right? Don't get burned.
Have you given thought to how pandemic-induced isolation has made this even worse? More time inside. I mean, people are getting out some for hikes, and that is the better way to get out and about. But still, more people shut in.
Yeah, absolutely. More people shut in, not going out to places like beaches, for example, being shut down in a lot of locations. But we are primarily an indoor-driven society these days due to our work culture, and so we need to come up with an alternative method for making sure that we get this master hormone into our bodies.
Great transition. So SOLIUS, I've seen the photos of the sort of initial device, this really futuristic pod that you walk into, almost feels like a tanning something, a situation, but you're getting this narrow spectrum of sunlight, right? Without the radiation. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, that's pretty close, actually. We don't like to use the word tanning bed. We don't look to incur any cosmetic effect on the human body. Yeah. Tanning is bad for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ultraviolet A radiation involved in that. Our technology actually filters all of that out. We don't want to have a cosmetic effect on the body. We just want to get that narrow life spectrum, which is a very narrow band of the sun's 3,000 nanometer wide range that it outputs. And so there's this very small spectrum which causes production of vitamin D in the human body. And that's what we actually provide in a very short period of time. And you're right, you walk into the device and roughly 2 to 4 minutes later, depending on what your skin type is, the treatment's complete.
Got it. How many of these devices have you deployed? Are people starting to use this and give you feedback?
Yeah, we've gotten actually quite a bit of feedback. We have been approved by Health Canada, and we're still undergoing our FDA approval. So nobody's using it in the United States unless they're part of a clinical study. But it is available for over-the-counter use in Canada, so anybody can walk up and actually use the device. Interestingly, though, when COVID came along, we were impacted by that because people were no longer coming to high traffic locations where we had installed our machines.
Right.
And so we had to sit back and think about, hey, how can we get this device into people's homes where they don't have to go out to use it and use a device that, literally hundreds of other people have used also.
Got it. How long into COVID did that reality really sink in that we're going to have to think differently about this?
Right away, right in the very beginning, we noticed, a decline of people coming out. Devices that we had installed in pharmacy type locations, gyms, people were no longer going to those locations. So we recognized it immediately. Now, fortunately, we had started research on a smaller format machine back in the late part of 2019. So we had begun our work on the engineering and design side to build a smaller format device.
Okay. So talk me through that. What does it look like to have a SOLIUS in my home? I mean, is it like a sauna, like I'm in Finland? I've got my own little...
It's great. We're talking like a very small panel that you actually hang on your wall in your home, very unobtrusive, good looking device. And what we've basically done is we've taken a machine that weighs almost 400 pounds, occupies almost 300 cubic feet, and we've shrunk it down to a device that looks like it's going to weigh just under 10 pounds that you can set on your bathroom counter or hang on the door, and will occupy about 1.5 cubic feet. And so what's incredible about that is the small format device is going to cost about 1% of what a large format device does, and be just as efficacious. And that's the most important thing. So it's going to be as effective as the large device, and you're going to be able to buy one and use it in the privacy of your own home.
Is that because you're able to take in the vitamin D that you need from a single part of your body? It doesn't need to be like a full body exposure?
The more of your body that we can cover, the better. But this particular device is designed to treat your torso and your back. So you stand in front of it, then you turn around and treat your back. And we've also redesigned the light engine. The only way that we could actually take and go with that cost and shrink it down was to redesign our light engine from the ground up and our optical engine with the way that we actually take those photons and direct them at the body, collimate them, so bring them out in a very narrow beam and spread them evenly across your body. So we've had an amazing breakthrough in our lighting technology. And with that, we're able to actually treat then that part of your body, just the torso and the back, and get that level of efficiency.
Got it. Educate me a little bit on the light therapy market, because if I struggle with seasonal affective disorder and I go on Amazon and I get kind of a mood light, it's going to brighten up my day, that might fall for me in the category of light therapy. Talk to me about what that full market, I was going to say spectrum, but that's a term that you use scientifically, the full spectrum of light therapy in the market right now.
Yeah, there is a lot of devices out there in what you would call the light therapy area. And they include everything from infrared. You had mentioned an infrared sauna, so that's an example of a light therapy. We call them the happy blue lights that you'll see for $29 on Amazon. Operate also in a very different spectrum, and they actually operate by you taking that blue light in through your optical nerve. So it's nothing to do with the skin or the production of vitamin D. Vitamin D is very specific at a particular ultraviolet B range of around 300 nanometers. And there are no other technologies that you're going to see on the market right now that affect just in that particular area. You got a tiny bit of it in a tanning machine, but again, tanning machines known to be pretty harmful in causing skin cancer. So we certainly don't recommend that that's the way for you to be getting your light therapy treatment. But
Got it.
what you're going to find is not a lot of competitors in our particular space, but you certainly see things like infrared technologies, but they just don't work on the same mechanism level.
Yeah. That's a really helpful clarification, because it'd be easy for a consumer to get confused. Just because the blue light is working on my eyes and my mood, that I'm also getting these other ancillary benefits.
Right.
Maybe this is a funny question, but is it hot? Is it warm? Like, in order to get the vitamin D sensation, does it have to be like radiating?
Yeah, no, you're going to actually find that it's really not, maybe a very small rise in temperature, but it's not like sitting in sunlight where you feel hot or anything like that.
Yeah.
You also don't see the light. Ultraviolet light is actually invisible. So our device actually indicates when the treatment is on. But it's not like you're expecting that you're standing in front of a hot thing that's burning you.
Interesting. This is a side question. Is there a temptation to make it bright anyway, psychologically, so that the person using it feels like, yes, I'm getting exposed to something?
Yeah, if you take a look at our website, solius.com, and you'll actually see the large format device. I would say we paint the light.
Got it.
A color violet. And it's a calming color, and it lets you know that the device is on. And that's really the thing that we're trying to let people know, is that, you're in the middle of a treatment and it's on, and the color is there to indicate that for you. And it's also got a nice mood appeal to it.
Yeah. But fascinating that the thing you really need is actually invisible, and you have no idea that it's even happening.
That's right.
It's not some shiny, object. So are you going through the same FDA process with the portable as with the large one? How's that rolling out?
Yeah, we are. We're filing now in Canada to extend our Health Canada license to expand the family of products that we have in Canada. So that's our regulatory pathway. I don't want to imply that we have that yet, but we're quite confident in the pathway, because we do have a device in the market which has not had any adverse effects. And so that bodes well for our regulatory pathway there. And then we'll be doing the exact same process in the United States. And we're currently having meetings with the FDA, submitting our paperwork to the FDA. Just a bit longer process in the United States for that. And we expect to have that done also in 2021.
In 21. Okay. So optimistically, if I am really struggling with my vitamin D and I want this in my home, well, I guess you probably can't make projections about that, but some in 2021, hopefully this will become available.
Hopefully, or if you've got a friend and you can go visit them in Canada, you can use it up there right away.
Hopefully the borders will continue to
Exactly, that's right,
get
right.
more open.
The borders need to open, so the Canadians have the opportunity to use the Solius product right now, which is great.
Okay. Final word from you, just kind of on where you feel like this industry is going, your thoughts on 2021 and, the trajectory going forward.
There's probably been a dozen studies that have come out in the last few months linking low vitamin D with more severe outcomes with COVID-19. And as I also mentioned, the Boston University study, which has also been replicated in other nations, talking about dramatically lower death rates. And so I think that this is going to be a wake-up call to people to understand how important it is from an immune system standpoint to keep your vitamin D level optimized. And I see this as becoming part of everybody's regular health routine. You only really need to take a treatment once or twice a week. It's just for a couple of minutes, so you can easily incorporate this into getting ready for your day or before you go to bed. And we certainly hope that people will take advantage of the technology.
Okay, I lied. Quick follow-up question. How does one monitor their vitamin D levels to kind of know that, hey, I'm moving in the right direction, I'm taking care of this issue?
That's a great question, and it's a hard one because it does require a blood test at this point in order for you to understand your vitamin D level. Not all doctors make that part of their annual physical, so when you go in for your annual physical and you're looking to get your blood work done, you should ask them to include a vitamin D assessment panel when they do the blood draw. And that's the best way of doing it. Very interesting conversations with new companies that are bringing technology out that are doing micro droplets of blood samples in the home and actually being able to determine not only the vitamin D levels, but other key nutrients in your blood that you can monitor. So I think we're going to see an explosion in like home lab technology in the future. So you're going to be able to do this also in the privacy of your own home. But for right now, it's best to have it done by your general practitioner.
That's awesome. Appreciate that insight. Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to give us an update on Solius, on the new product rollout, and thank you for dedicating so much of your time to helping folks who are vitamin D deficient and exploring this new territory.
Well, Logan, thank you. We're super excited about it and the impact it's going to have on human health.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Be well.
Cheers.